Welcome to the Moviegoers Society podcast brought to you by Nerdtropolis. I'm your host, Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis. And joining me once again is my co-host, Drew Munhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind, who might be the newest member of the Ghostbusters. I mean, you're in the middle of the craziness they have to deal with in New York. And, you know, it's Frozen Empire, but also in the news lately, it seems like there is a lot of snow happening in certain parts of the US. And we're in almost at April. I have not heard of like snow almost towards April in the United States. Pretty wild.
I prepared badly, Sean. It's a wee bit chilly here.
And you're wearing a t-shirt, it seems cold. Like too. Yeah, you're not prepared for the cold. As a fellow Estonian and Texan, we're never prepared for the cold.
Who would have thought going to the Frozen Empire that it's fairly cold here?
When I went to the New York City last year in November, it was really, I mean, it's November, so it's cold, but they said it was like one of the coldest Novembers they had. So New York can get really, really nasty. And you can see that as your background as we talk about a certain film soon. But yeah, in this podcast, we dive in the world of cinema, exploring everything from beloved classics to the latest blockbusters. We're at episode 35. There's something strange in this episode. You got that right. We are giving the Ghostbusters a call to talk about Frozen Empire. Super excited for that. But before we do get into all that, we want to make sure you can follow us online. You can find me on every single social media platform at Sean Tosh. Nerdtropolis is at Nerdtropolis. Anything you can think of, new or old social media, you can find us. Please subscribe and like to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, anything you name it, call it. We're on it. And don't forget to visit nerdtropolis.com for your daily dose of movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers. And Drew, where can they find you when you're not contributing to Nerdtropolis?
You can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social media platforms, and of course, weekly here at Moviegoers Society.
Yeah, it seems like we're pushing out pretty fairly weekly, but you know, a lot of busy stuff going on. So we just dropped a brand new episode a couple days ago, talking about X-Men 97 and Roadhouse. So don't forget to check out on past episodes of the Moviegoer Society. Tune into my podcast, Real Insights, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course the YouTube channel. I think there's a lot of highlights on that channel for Real Insights. But speaking of Ghostbusters, I have 20-minute conversation with Ernie Hudson himself. And we dive into Frozen Empire, the franchise, Ivan Reitman, Harold Ramis, the new cast, old cast, everything on there. So super excited that kind of, Drew, I told you, this is a full circle experience. You see behind me, you see I got my Slimer popcorn bucket, my Ghost Trap popcorn bucket. That's my box set of Ghostbusters. And you see back there's a couple things. I don't know which way I'm supposed to go, but there's like a proton pack back there.
The Ghost Trap popcorn bucket is pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It's like of course the Dune sandworm popcorn bucket is the one that went viral a few weeks ago, but like
for all the wrong reasons, we'll just say that.
Exactly. But the Ghost Trap one is cool and I guess more practical. I don't know if practical is the right word, but I like that one a lot. I don't know why the actual cool ones that are useful don't get more of a spotlight on them.
And to be honest, I actually really love the Slimer one. It's just so basic. It's basic, but it gets to the point and it's awesome. It's iconic. Obviously, the Ghost Trap is iconic, but like I have a toy version of it back there, but also I getting the movie replica one that Hasbro's making. So like I'm gonna have plenty of Ghost Traps to catch plenty of ghosts, but there's only one Slimer. So that is exciting. But yeah, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the follow-up to Afterlife, which I actually got to go to New York Comic Con and watch the world premiere of Afterlife there with the cast and director. So like that was like very memorable for me being in New York, watching Afterlife, and then going to that firehouse that's behind Drew, but it wasn't Frozen at the time. First time checking out the firehouse in person, which is like really cool. And like the firefighters there are awesome. They have a miniature like store, so you can buy stuff from them. It goes to the fire department, which is awesome. So I think I got a pin or beanie, but they have an array of stuff. So I can only imagine what they had there. They did a lot of publicity for Frozen Empire there this year as they returned to New York. So Frozen Empire has the Spengler family returning to the iconic New York City firehouse, where the OG Ghostbusters have taken ghostbusting to the next level when discovering an ancient artifact that unleashes an evil force that, does what's happening behind Drew, freezing over New York City and probably beyond. So the new and old Ghostbusters must unite to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. Uh, this Ghostbusters movie is almost like a nostalgic trip. Afterlife is totally different, and and, and I just felt like it's two different moods for those two films. I loved Afterlife. Actually like Afterlife more than Frozen Empire just because of that emotional kick in the stomach. But Frozen Empire does prove that revisiting the past with your OGs that get much more screen time is a lot of fun. Real quick, Drew, I looked at the box office numbers. They said it's better than expected. For some reason, Ghostbusters, though, throughout the year since it began, was not the strongest franchise film or films. Big fan base, a lot of fun films. You cannot tear these films apart. They're so much fun and it's such a unique world they've built. But I'm surprised like the Ghostbusters franchise isn't as epic as it could be, just following wise and box office success. To me, it's one of my favorite franchises like Marvel and DC and stuff like that. Like Ghostbusters is a lot of fun. And Ninja Turtles, So I hope one day Ghostbusters really gets its respect. Because lately I've been seeing a lot of negative stuff around Ghostbusters. But I'm like, even the 2016 one, think about it, a multiverse movie. It works, it's fun. I actually liked it. I was like, okay, this is the new Ghostbusters we're getting. But unfortunately, a lot of people were not fans of it and they had to pretty much reboot it a little bit. But I like the nostalgia in this film, Drew. We can get to a lot more, but I just want to know in general, did you enjoy Ghostbusters Frozen Empire as solid entertainment in front of you?
I did. I really did. And going back to Afterlife, Afterlife, I was really high on as I was watching it. For me, the third act in the nostalgia trip and a lot of what they did honestly didn't work for me. That was the stuff that took me out of it. But I had to remind myself that I had really liked the journey getting there. And so watching Frozen Empire was kind of nice because Afterlife had a lot on its shoulders, right? It was the first Ghostbusters movie in decades that had the original cast back as their original characters. It was like this legacy sequel. It was trying to do a lot. And I like the fact that Frozen Empire was just a new Ghostbusters movie. Like that's it. Like it didn't have the weight of all those things before. It's just a new story with the Ghostbusters. There's some like if you read the reviews and things, there are like some complaints from people like, oh, there's too many characters and this and that. And like I get all of that, but like it's a fun movie. Like it's just a fun Ghostbusters movie that corrects a lot of the things that people complained about with the last one. Oh, it's not New York and oh, this and that. And like this one it feels like a New York Ghostbusters movie. The Ghostbusters are famous. People know who they are. Like it kind of corrects a lot of those things. And so, yeah, it's like, and then people aren't happy with certain things. It's like, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too, I guess. I thought this was a pretty fun, solid entry in the Ghostbusters franchise.
I mean, it's Ghostbusters, everybody. Come on, we cannot complain about getting another Ghostbusters film. It's like one of those franchises that's really hard to get these films off the ground. Like I said, like Drew said, we haven't seen one that's part of the same like world, I guess, for a long time. We had the 2016 one, but in general, to have the same characters and the same actors, we have not seen that since pretty much 89, and then we got Afterlife. So we should be grateful for all of this.
Well, Ghostbusters is a unique thing too, because as with a lot of these franchises that originated in the 80s, it's like they were truly a product of time and place. Like you had these comedy stars that are kind of at the heights of their powers in the 80s, working on this totally unique idea on a relatively low budget, and it hits, and it's kind of this amazing thing, and it's a really, really hard thing to duplicate. And even Ghostbusters 2 was not well liked when it came out, but it's now still loved by fans of the franchise, and it's just because it's they have nostalgic for it, they grew up with it. And so now you have attempts at Ghostbusters sequels that have $100 million budgets, and it's when you get a solid experience out of one like Frozen Empire, it's like that should be something to be celebrated, in my opinion. And what's surprising to me is it's looking like the opening weekend for Frozen Empire was just higher than the opening weekend for Afterlife, which typically doesn't happen with sequels like this. So I think that's pretty cool. You know, the same people are showing up for this franchise in theaters.
Like you said, like we should enjoy every Ghostbusters from out there. I feel the same way when it comes like to everything that's Ninja Turtles that hits theaters, Spider-Man, Batman. I'm just thankful for all of it that's coming out. Like that's what we need to be, is be thankful for all these types of movies. They're not going to be the ones we want, because there's like a Spider-Man movies where I'm like, man, I would do a different storyline, but I loved it. Like just like Ghostbusters, I have a storyline that I would like to tell if I was a filmmaker. Or a Batman, or like this is the villain I would do. I remember back when Spider-Man 4 was being announced back with Tobey Maguire, I was like, I would do this for Spider-Man 4. And I kind of like drafted up a summary of what I wanted. This is like when we were much younger. And I was like, this is the villain I would do and stuff like that. This is when forums were popular and stuff like that. So you could
What
have
a
that.
nerd.
I
Sean.
know.
What a nerd.
That's the birth of the mayor of Nerdtropolis right there. But this film it was exciting to have everyone back. And speaking of the cast, I like the fact that McKenna Grace is really like almost a leading character in this, along with Paul Rudd. So like among the newer actors, I feel like Paul Rudd and McKenna Grace are really the stars of this film and the story. And like, but I do wish Paul Rudd was steering a little bit more. But I loved it how McKenna Grace is really who we're following her character, which is important. Like she is like the ultimate Ghostbuster. She is so smart, strong, but she's a teenager, so she's going through her things. But a perfect Phoebe Spangler. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better Phoebe Spangler right there. You got Carrie Coon. You got obviously Paul Rudd. Gary Gruber said, "Who's the step teacher?" Yeah, I like that. I like that that line in there, because you know they're a family now, and Paul Rudd's Gary is almost like their dad. I don't think they're not married. I think
he's like part of the family, but with a dotted line, and you can tell that he's like self-aware of that and almost like self-conscious about it, but trying to be part of the family. I liked that dynamic.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do with this family is amazing and beautiful at the same time. It's like a mixed family, it seems like, and there's a lot of other issues as teenagers. But you got like Logan Kim and Celeste O'Connor returning as Lucky in Podcast. I thought that was a weird kind of throw in, you know, like everyone from Afterlife is back, which is great. But it's just like it didn't seem like they were still friends, because they were surprised to see each other at some point, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I like to know like what was going on. There is an animated show happening for Netflix, and I wonder if it's gonna like tie into what happened in between Afterlife and Frozen Empire. I feel like there's a big gap in between. Everyone's older now too, but that reunion's nice with the new cast, and obviously the OG cast is what I loved. Talking to Ernie Hudson about the OG reunion, he has a lot to say about that. But Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, obviously Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts. Obviously we had Mayor Walter Peck. So we had William Atherton returning, which is great, and Slimer. And so you got a really good, you know, OG cast returning, which was great. Did you love that reunion?
I did. William Atherton in particular, I was really happy to see back. And I've been on paternity leave lately, so I've been watching just a lot of dad movies. Like I just recently rewatched Die Hard and Die Hard 2, which William Atherton's in, and so seeing him back in this role in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was very fun. He fits right back into the same role that where he was almost 40 years ago.
He's the dickless man is who he plays. We're going to quote that, which I love. There's a lot of Easter eggs and throwbacks. Fresh excitement too. I like the addition of Patton Oswalt. And then you have Kumail Nanjiani, and he is actually very important in the storyline. And that's where I think the movie jumps the shark a little bit of what it's introducing in this world, which is fine. But I think it's really cool to see more of the ancient world of Ghostbusters, and which was kind of what it is. That's what his character comes from, is like an ancient world of ghost busting in a different part of the world, and that this is not just something new. Other people have dealt with these ghosts in the past and have put them away. So that's actually a really cool addition to the world of Ghostbusters. I think there's just so much more now you can add to this, lore. Did you enjoy the additions of the new cast, especially Kumail and Patton?
For the most part, like this is where I can understand some of the complaints here, because you have the family of four, right? So there you have those four, and then you have the four kind of legacy Ghostbusters character with, wait, is that right? How you got Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and I'm counting Annie Potts as part of that. So you've got them, but then you have this addition of like the research group that are now kind of part of the team, the extended part of the team. Then Kumail Nanjiani, who's also part of the final battle. I won't say like what role. And then you also have these kind of additional supporting characters like Patton Oswalt, and so there definitely are a lot of characters. Oh, and we can't forget podcast. There's the character named Podcast. So there's just a lot going on, and I think the interesting thing about it is some of the legacy things that didn't work for me in Afterlife really did work for me in this one. Like, I almost thought the legacy characters, Aykroyd and Hudson in particular, are like some of the strongest part of the movie, which is a little bittersweet because you want this new family to be able to kind of host the movie on their shoulders without the legacy characters, because just being realistic, like if you can believe it, Ernie Hudson's 78 years old. Like that's insane. He looks great for his age, but like these guys aren't going to be around forever. If you want this franchise to keep going, like you don't want to rely on them. But I just can't help it. Like I love the role that Dan Aykroyd's character plays in this world, like with his little kind of mystic shop of oddities, and how he's kind of
if you play the video game, that's in there. So like that's nothing like that's technically new, but it's fun though. Like to see Dan Aykroyd like taking a step back, but he's really doing research and knows about all the ghosts and stuff like that. So I love to see that, and that's a great like transition from being a Ghostbuster to being like an assistant to the Ghostbusters almost. And in the game, it's like he's next door to the firehouse, so it's like almost connected. So that's the cool part too.
Yeah, and Zeddemore is kind of the financial backer of them, and setting up the research group. Like I liked all of that and expanding the lore and seeing new things and how they're using their ghost busting technology in different ways, like containment units for ghosts and removing spirits from possessed objects. Like all of that stuff I found to be really cool and interesting. And somehow this movie was still able to work despite adding a lot of new things and having a lot of characters. I just don't think that even though there's a lot going on, it's still a successful story, and I still had a really good time with it. The girl that plays Lucky, Celeste O'Connor, the whole time I was like, she looks so familiar. Where do I recognize her from? And I realized that she's one of the 3 girls from Madam Web lately, and luckily she's in this a much better franchise to be a part of.
Yeah, so it's great to see. She's obviously in Afterlife, and so is Logan Kim as podcast. So like to see them kind of come with them over the summer as like kind of interns is fun. And yeah, there's a lot of characters, a lot going on. So yeah, I can see why people say there's a lot happening, which is true. And to be honest, there's a lot that has been cut out. If you watch the trailers, there is so much things missing and scenes, which is a good and bad thing. That means they filmed a lot, and maybe they just cut down the runtime. What is the runtime of this film? I didn't feel like it was dragging at all one bit, surprisingly. I don't even think it's under 2 hours.
Yeah, Wikipedia says 115 minutes, so just under 2 hours.
I wish this was a 2-hour 10 movie epicness. I think it could have been done. That's how much I love Ghostbusters. Returning is Jason Reitman and Gil Kenan, who are the writing partners of Afterlife. But this time Gil is directing. And he said this was scary for him, it's such a big thing. These guys have done great films, but nothing at this scale. Even Afterlife is a very small film if you think about it. But I just loved, a lot of comedy, action, sci-fi elements, a lot of horror elements too, which was really cool to see them kind of dive into it. But you got to make it kid friendly at the same time. You got Slimer Ecto 1 back in its glory. But to me, Afterlife was just like one of the most important films of the franchise. So like I still love that dearly, but I had so much fun with this. And I liked all the extreme Ghostbusters like callbacks on there too from the cartoon. And a couple of cartoons, the real Ghostbusters or something in there, and the extreme Ghostbusters. But if I had to make a Ghostbusters film, I would lean sharp into the extreme Ghostbusters stuff and get a new class with the kids of Spangler's kids, grandkids, and then have them lead the way. Because like you said, these OG Ghostbusters aren't going to be around forever. They need to get Paul Rudd more as a leadership role. because he's still kind of figuring out where he fits too, because he's not technically a Spangler and he's an outsider. So I don't know if they're gonna give him like the leadership role to lead the way uh, alongside Phoebe. But I hope we get more. I don't want this to be another gap. I like how quickly this came out compared to Afterlife, especially with COVID and the strikes and everything like was happening. And this was supposed to come out in December. So it was nice that, this worked for March. It's not really a winter movie. It's Frozen Empire. It takes place over the summer. So I don't think timing was going to hurt it if it came out later on after December.
Yeah, you see like a lot of these franchises that start going so big, like Marvel set such a high bar with like multiverses and things, and now even they're trying to like take a step back and get back to their roots. And so like with Ghostbusters, it's like, yeah, just make a new Ghostbusters movie. That's it. It doesn't have to be like crazy high budget. Just give us like some new cool ghosts, of some fun stories, some new ghost tech. You've got plenty of new characters that can move forward. Like I feel like this can go for a long time. And the consensus I'm seeing is like some of the critical response to this movie is all over the place, but the people that I know that are like true Ghostbusters fans, longtime fans, like shout out to a friend of mine, Thomas, who's like the biggest Ghostbusters fan I know, who has, the replica proton pack and all the stuff like that I'm sure you have too, Sean. And he saw this and he was like, I loved it. I had a great time. So all the people I know that are true, just longtime Ghostbusters fans are really liking this. So just go strap in and have a good time. It's really fun. What was your quote, Sean? Ectoplasmic perfection.
Yes,
I think
for those that have not seen
quote.
it yet, on all the TV spots happening as March Madness is in full force, you'll see my quote pulled and featured in a couple spots. Ectoplasmic perfection. You cannot ask for a more fun Ghostbusters film. They're all fun, but I'm saying can't go in complaining what you're getting. This is amazing. This is fun. I had a good time sitting there with my Ghost Trap popcorn bucket, my Ecto One Reebok shoes that I was sporting, an IMAX. I saw an IMAX. It's actually really cool in IMAX. So if you're watching an IMAX, RPX, anything like that, it's a lot more fun because you're fully immersed. And yeah, I'm thankful for Sony for the great opportunity as well, and really nice surprise full circle to have my quote used in their TV spots, which was very emotional for me. I was like, what is going on? When my friend told me that she saw it on TV and sent me a picture, I'm like, what? Is this real? Am I dreaming? And then being posted all over socials and on during the March Madness TV spot. So super exciting. Yeah, you're gonna have fun. Kids, all ages, all generations. And there's a lot going on because they want to satisfy everybody. All the complaints about like there's too much going on, too many characters. It's really because they're trying to make everyone happy before I think they're going to make a major shift. I don't see Bill Murray being around that often for this film because he was barely in this one, if you think about it. So
yeah, he's the one of the legacy characters that probably has the least to do, but you're still just happy when Venkman shows up because it's Venkman.
Yeah, and then Aykroyd, this is his baby as well. So he's a big part of like the Ghost Corps and everything, and the reason why Ghostbusters is existing. So he's definitely around with his little shop. So I can see his character like really important. Zeddemore, Ernie Hudson, obviously a backer and stuff like that. To be honest, I thought Kumail and Patton would like have been like the new Ghostbusters, part of the new Ghostbusters teams. I thought they would have been suited up in some extent, but that's just me wishful thinking, or I just was maybe reading it a different way when I saw the trailers of how they're going to go about it. But it seems like they're going young.
Kumail's role is really unique and specific to the story in this movie. I don't see him being back for future installments. Patton Oswalt could be like, he's kind of in a role where like he can kind of almost fill the Aykroyd spot as like a historian for the team, or like somebody they can consult. So I could see Patton Oswalt being back for future installments. Kumail Nanjiani, though, I was just thinking about this. Get this. Even though his part was one that didn't really work for me in the movie, I still like him a lot as an actor and a performer, and I think he's fun when he shows up. But if you look at the franchises that he's been a part of, like obviously he's in the MCU, he's in Eternals, which is not like the most beloved MCU movie, but still he's part of the MCU.
And he's really good in Eternals. He's really good at Eternals. When he pops up in anything, just like Ghostbusters, real quick, he is really funny, and like I like his lines they feed him for a lot of things he does. Like his personalities is hilarious in everything he's in, especially Frozen Empire.
and he's now part of the Ghostbusters franchise. He's been in the Men in Black franchise because he's in Men in Black International, and he's in Star Wars because he was in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like Kumail Nanjiani, just in every, popping up in every franchise there is.
Yeah, and even though his role is a lot in this film, like they just kind of threw his storyline in there. His approach to it is hilarious, though.
Yeah, I agree.
He's kind of a bum that has to figure out where he comes from, and really is helpful to everybody. And
I always like that trope of like, yeah, kind of the loser who ends up being vitally important to what they're doing, regardless of if he wants to be part of it or not. I always like that. I think that's fun.
Yeah, so you're gonna find something you're gonna love about this. It's Ghostbusters in general, so like, you can't hate on it, guys. You cannot hate on this. Gotta enjoy it, gotta support it. There's a lot, from the video games to some of the comic books they've made. A lot of toys. Toys are big for Ghostbusters. We're gonna get an animated show. Hopefully, we get another film. Who knows who's gonna be making it? Gil and Jason are right now making this movie called SNL 79.
75, I think.
75. 75. And so that's
about the first ever season of SNL. It looks like it's going to be really fun, and it has a huge cast.
Talk about the cast, because
comers.
Mention the cast if you can. But this takes place pretty much a couple hours or within the hour before the first SNL. So like how they're getting prepped and how they're getting ready and the whole, I guess, craziness before they go on air. But yeah, that's what they're doing right now, Gil and Jason. And the cast is amazing. It's really wild. Have it pulled up, or do you want me to do it?
I do have it pulled up, but I'll hand it to you because I know you just you recently spoke to somebody that's part of this cast, didn't you?
I did. I did, didn't I?
Gabriel LaBelle.
Yes, I did. That's right. And I did not have time. Our conversation was so wild, talking about Snack Chat with Gabriel, who we know from The Fabelmans, playing pretty much Steven Spielberg in his younger days. Didn't get to it. We talked a lot about 7-Eleven and Taco Bell and our childhood. But yeah, Gabriel LaBelle is playing what I think like one of the biggest names part of this is Lorne Michaels. So I'm super excited to see how he does Lorne Michaels. You got Finn Wolfhard. He's playing an NBC page, which is awesome. Nicholas Braun, who we know from Succession, playing Jim Henson. Like, this is like the type of real life people they're adding to this. Who's playing Chevy Chase? Corey Michael Smith. So like it's a really diverse cast of new talent and young rising talents too, because there's a lot of names on here I don't recall.
Shout out to Rachel Sennett. I think she is hilarious. She's in Bodies, 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 and was recently in the movie Bottoms, and she's in this as Rosie Schuster. Did you mention Cooper Hoffman? That's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, who was recently in Licorice Pizza. He's in this as Dick Ebersol. Andrew Barth Feldman, who was recently in No Hard Feelings opposite Jennifer Lawrence, and he's actually very funny and memorable in that. And he's in this as Neil Levy. Yeah, there's like a lot of great people.
I'm looking at who's playing. So you got Matt Wood playing John Belushi. I'm actually really looking forward to that performance. Like some of the obviously the people that aren't with us anymore and that were big part of SNL. I think I'm really excited to see the John Belushi. Dylan O'Brien.
Imagine the weight on your shoulders as Gabriel LaBelle, who played a young version of Steven Spielberg in a movie directed by Steven Spielberg. So you're playing basically like one of the most iconic directors of all time, and now playing Lorne Michaels, literally one of the most iconic figures in comedy that there is. Like what big shoes that you're filling in these movies.
Especially if you go watch the interview I had with him and just kind of get a sense of his personality. He's really fun, lighthearted. Like he's still always a kid out there, and they're young. They're like 22 maybe right now. So it's pretty wild about all of this. And so I'm excited to see like what he brings, because Lorne Michaels' demeanor is the complete opposite. But I don't know how he was in 1975, but like what we see now as a pretty old man now, it's a very dry. So it'll be interesting to see that. That's probably gonna be a great impression, we'll call it, and stuff like that. Yeah, but I think the John Belushi performance I'm looking forward to. So yeah, that's what the Ghostbusters guys are up to. Hopefully they're back. I know there was a small update about the animated show coming to Netflix, but not much. But I had a good time, Drew. I'd go watch. I actually want to watch this again. I think I'd watch it again easily next day if I have time, because I had a good time, and I I think I missed a lot of Easter eggs too because I was just so glued into what was happening in front of me.
Yeah, I had a great time too. I think like don't go into this expecting like the greatest, blockbuster ever. It's just like it's a fun Ghostbusters movie. If you like Ghostbusters, you're gonna like it.
Yeah, because Busta makes us all feel good, Drew.
It does. It does. It sure does.
For all of you tuning in, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us. This podcast runs on Apple Podcast, Spotify, everywhere else. Share all our Nerdtropolis content we have coming your way. Once again, Drew, where can they find you?
You can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social media platforms.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Moviegoers Society. Once again, I'm Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and we will see you at the movies.